Have you ever wondered how you would survive without electricity for a long period of time? It's a sobering thought, isn't it? In our modern world, we're so accustomed to having everything at the flick of a switch that we rarely stop to consider what life might be like without this convenience. However, the reality is that a long-term power outage could happen at any time due to natural disasters, cyber attacks, technical failures, or even an EMP. In such a scenario, one of the most critical aspects we need to address is food. How do we store food to ensure that we have enough to eat when the lights go out and the refrigerators stop working? This question, my friends, is what we'll be exploring today. We'll delve into the importance of food storage in grid-down situations, discussing how a well-stocked pantry can not only provide sustenance but also offer a sense of security and comfort during challenging times. We'll also look at different food preservation methods that can be used to extend the shelf life of food items, from dry storage and canning to dehydration, fermentation, and even root cellaring. But our journey doesn't stop there. We'll examine the best foods for each preservation method and discuss how to package and store these foods correctly to maintain their quality over time. We'll also touch upon the importance of diversity in your food storage plan, ensuring a balanced nutrition, and how to adapt to personal preferences and dietary needs. Furthermore, we'll talk about maintenance and rotation strategies to keep your food stockpile fresh and usable, as well as measures to protect your food from pests and other potential threats. As we go through all these topics, we'll be providing practical tips and guidelines to help you get started on your own food storage system. Whether you're a seasoned prepper or someone just beginning to explore the idea of long-term food storage, we believe there's something in this discussion for everyone. So, buckle up and get ready to learn how to keep your pantry stocked, come what may. Before we dive into specific methods, let's understand what makes food spoil and how we can prevent it. Food spoilage is primarily caused by the growth of microorganisms, such as bacteria and mold, and the activity of enzymes naturally present in the food. These factors are influenced by the environment, including temperature, moisture, air, and light. To prevent spoilage, we need to control these environmental factors. This is where the principles of food preservation come into play. Firstly, we have heat treatment, like cooking or canning, which kills off many of the harmful bacteria. Secondly, we use low temperatures like refrigeration or freezing to slow down bacterial growth and enzymatic activity. Thirdly, drying removes the moisture that bacteria need to grow. Then we have chemical methods, such as using vinegar, salt, or sugar, which create an environment that's inhospitable to microorganisms. Lastly, we can use fermentation, a process that encourages the growth of good bacteria, which in turn inhibit the bad ones. Each of these methods has its own benefits and limitations, and some are more suitable for certain types of food than others. But remember, even the best preservation method won't help if the food isn't stored properly afterwards. Proper storage conditions are crucial to maintaining the quality and safety of preserved food. Generally, preserved food should be stored in a cool, dark, and dry place. High temperatures can accelerate spoilage and loss of quality, while light can degrade certain nutrients. Moisture can lead to mold growth, even in preserved food. And let's not forget about pests, like insects and rodents, which can contaminate your food. Keeping your storage area clean and using pest-proof containers can help keep them at bay. Now that you know the basics, let's explore some practical methods you can apply at home. First off, we have dry food storage, a simple yet efficient method for long-term food preservation. When it comes to foods that are ideal for dry storage, grains, legumes, sugar, and salt take the lead. These staples are not only versatile for cooking, but also have an impressive shelf life. Grains like wheat and rice can be stored for years without losing their nutritional value. Legumes, including lentils and beans, provide essential proteins and can also last for a long time. Sugar and salt, meanwhile, are perfect for flavoring and preserving other foods, and they don't have an expiration date when stored properly. Now, let's talk about packaging. Packaging is crucial in preserving the quality of dry foods. Mylar bags are a popular choice because they are robust and resistant to moisture and oxygen, two enemies of food preservation. For larger quantities, food-grade buckets are your best bet. They're sturdy, stackable, and can keep pests at bay. To prolong the life of your food, consider using oxygen absorbers. These little packets absorb oxygen in the container, limiting the growth of aerobic bacteria and fungi. Of course, even with the best packaging, your food won't last if it's not stored in the right conditions. You'll want to keep your dry goods in a cool, dark, and dry place. This helps slow down the degradation process and keeps pests away. And let's not forget about rotation strategies. Use the first in, first out principle. Always use the oldest items first and replace them with new ones. This ensures that nothing goes to waste and that your stock remains fresh. So, to recap, the best foods for dry storage are grains, legumes, sugar, and salt. Proper packaging involves using Mylar bags or food-grade buckets and oxygen absorbers for added protection. Store everything in a cool, dark, dry place, and remember to rotate your stock. With these tips, your dry goods can last for years, providing a reliable food source when you need it most. Next, we've got canning, a great way to preserve a variety of foods from fruits to meats. Let's start with water bath canning, an ideal method for high-acid foods. Think fruits, jams, jellies, and pickles. The process involves filling jars with food, sealing them with a lid and band, and then submerging them in boiling water for a specified period. This heat processing kills bacteria and creates a vacuum seal, keeping the goodies inside fresh and safe. You'll need a large pot, a rack to prevent the jars from touching the pot bottom, and of course your jars, lids, and bands. Moving on to pressure canning. This method is a must for low-acid foods like vegetables, meats, and poultry. These foods need a higher temperature to eliminate bacteria, and that's where pressure canning comes in. Once your jars are filled and sealed, they go into a specialized pressure canner. As the canner heats, it builds pressure, raising the boiling point and effectively killing off those pesky bacteria. Safety is crucial with pressure canning. It's important to follow your recipe and canner instructions to the letter. Overfilling jars, rapid changes in pressure, or a faulty seal can lead to dangers like botulism or even an exploding canner. But don't let this scare you away. With the right knowledge and careful execution, pressure canning is an incredibly effective way to preserve a wide range of foods. Finally, let's talk about storage. Your canned goods should be kept in a cool, dark place. Light and heat can degrade food quality and break down the seal. It's also a good idea to remove the bands after the jars have cooled. This will prevent rust and let you see if the seal is compromised. Remember, correctly canned goods can last up to 5 years, making them a staple of any long-term food storage plan. Let's move on to dehydration, a method that's as old as civilization itself. Dehydration is a simple and effective way of preserving food, mainly by removing moisture, which in turn inhibits the growth of bacteria and other spoilage organisms. So, what foods are suitable for dehydration? Well, a whole lot of them. Fruits, like apples, bananas, and berries, are great choices, as are vegetables such as tomatoes, peppers, and zucchini. Herbs and spices can also be dried for long-term storage. Even meats can be dehydrated. Ever heard of jerky? Now, onto some DIY dehydration methods. Sun drying is one of the oldest and most natural methods. It works best in hot, dry climates and is ideal for fruits like grapes and tomatoes. However, it does require constant supervision to avoid any critters getting to your food. Air drying is another option, especially for herbs and spices. Simply hang them in a well-ventilated, dark place and let nature do the rest. Oven drying is a quicker method and works well with a wider variety of foods. Just set your oven to the lowest setting and keep the door slightly ajar to allow moisture to escape. But remember to keep an eye on it to prevent overheating. After your food is dehydrated, it's crucial to store it properly. Airtight containers are best for this, as they prevent moisture from seeping back into the food. You can also consider vacuum sealing for an extra layer of protection. Store these containers in a cool, dark place to further extend the shelf life. One thing to remember is that dehydration does change the texture and sometimes the flavor of food. So it might take some getting used to, but once you do, you'll appreciate the convenience and longevity it offers. Dehydration is a versatile method that can be adapted to many different types of food. It's a practical skill to have, especially in a grid-down scenario. Dehydrated foods are lightweight, easy to store, and can last for several years when properly stored. Now, let's talk about fermentation, a technique that not only preserves food but also enhances its nutritional value. Fermentation has been around for thousands of years, a process as old as civilization itself. And it's not just about making tasty sauerkraut or tangy yogurt. Fermentation actually has a host of benefits that can contribute to your well-being, especially in a grid-down scenario. First off, fermented foods are packed with probiotics. These are the good kind of bacteria that help keep your gut healthy. They aid in digestion and also boost your immune system. And in a situation where medical help might not be readily available, that's a big plus. Secondly, Fermentation can enhance the nutritional value of food. The process can increase levels of vitamins and enzymes in the food, making them more beneficial for your body. So, you're not just storing food for the long haul, you're also storing nutrition. So how does fermentation work? Well, it's actually quite simple. It's all about creating the right environment for beneficial bacteria to thrive. You start with your food. Maybe it's cabbage for sauerkraut, cucumbers for pickles, or cabbage again for kimchi. You add some salt and maybe some water, and then you let nature do the rest. The salt draws out the moisture and creates a brine where good bacteria like lactobacillus can flourish. These bacteria convert sugars into lactic acid, which acts as a natural preservative. Now let's talk about some popular fermented foods for long-term storage. As mentioned, sauerkraut, pickles, and kimchi are great choices. They're easy to make, they store well, and they add a nice burst of flavor to your meals. Plus, they're versatile. You can eat them on their own, add them to dishes, or use them as condiments. Remember, fermented foods can be a great source of probiotics, which help support a healthy gut. So why not give fermentation a try? Not only will you be preserving food, but you'll also be preserving your health. Ever heard of a root cellar? It's an old-school method that still works wonders today. Root cellaring is all about storing food in a cool, humid, and dark environment. It's like having a natural refrigerator right under your feet. This method is ideal for certain foods like potatoes, apples, carrots, and other root vegetables. You want to know the best part? You can create your own root cellar. You might use a basement, a buried container, or even a hole in the ground. It doesn't have to be fancy. The key is maintaining the right conditions, cool and humid. A well-insulated space can keep your produce from freezing in winter and overheating in summer. Remember, not all foods are suitable for root cellaring. Foods with high water content, like cucumbers or oranges, don't fare well. But for the right foods, a well-maintained root cellar can keep your produce fresh for months, even without electricity. Now, for those who like to experiment, we have a few alternative preservation methods to explore. First up is smoking. This age-old technique involves exposing food, usually meat or fish, to smoke from burning or smoldering material, typically wood. The smoke's antimicrobial and antioxidant properties help preserve the food. Plus, it adds a distinctive flavor that many find irresistible. Imagine savoring a piece of smoked salmon or a slice of smoked cheese in the midst of a grid-down situation. That's not just survival. That's living. Next, let's talk about salting. Humans have been preserving food with salt for thousands of years. The process is simple. You cover your food in salt, and the salt draws out moisture, creating an environment where bacteria struggle to survive. This method works great for meats, fish, and some vegetables. And while it can make your food a bit on the salty side, it's nothing a good rinse or a soak in water can't fix. Then there's oil packing. This method involves submerging food in oil, creating a barrier that oxygen can't penetrate. It's a great way to preserve cooked or dried meats, cheese, and certain vegetables. The oil also infuses the food with its flavor, creating a delicious 2-for-1 deal. Just remember, once you open the container, refrigerate it to prevent the food from spoiling. Lastly, we're going to touch on freeze drying. Now, this method typically requires electricity, but there are non-electric alternatives, like solar-powered freeze dryers. Freeze drying works by freezing the food and then reducing the surrounding pressure to allow the frozen water in the food to sublimate directly from the solid phase to the gas phase. This process maintains the food's nutrition and flavor, and the food can last for years if stored properly. These methods add variety to your food storage and can be quite fun to try out. So don't be afraid to experiment and find what works best for you. After all, variety is the spice of life, even in survival situations. And remember, the key to successful food preservation is practice. So start now before you need it. Now that you're familiar with various preservation methods, let's talk about creating a diverse food storage plan. The essence of a robust food storage plan lies in diversity. Consider a balanced diet. You'll want to include a variety of food groups like proteins, carbohydrates, fats, and vitamins. This might mean a mix of canned meats, dry grains, dehydrated fruits and vegetables, and fermented foods. Incorporating variety will also stave off food fatigue. Imagine eating the same canned beans for a month straight. To prevent this, store a range of foods you enjoy. Remember, comfort foods can be a morale booster in tough times. Lastly, adapt your food storage to any personal preferences and dietary needs. If you're vegetarian, focus on plant-based proteins. Have a sweet tooth, store honey or dried fruits. Remember, A diverse food storage plan ensures you have a well-rounded diet, even in a grid-down scenario. Having a food storage plan is one thing, maintaining it is another. It's essential to keep a keen eye on your inventory. Regular checks on the quantity and quality of your stored food will ensure you're well prepared for any situation. Now let's talk about labeling and dating your food items. This is crucial. Always mark the date of storage on your food containers. It's a simple task that can save you from consuming expired or spoiled food. In addition to this, adopting a first-in, first-out or FIFO system can be a game changer. This means using the oldest items first and adding new ones at the back of your storage. This system is a great way to keep your food fresh and minimize waste. So remember, a well-organized food storage is not just about collecting items. It's about regularly checking, updating, and rotating your stock. A well-maintained food storage not only ensures food safety, but also prevents wastage. Last but not least, let's talk about protecting your precious food supply. No matter how well-preserved our food is, it's all for naught if pests get to it. Your first line of defense is proper packaging and storage, but don't forget to regularly check for signs of infestation. Then we come to concealment. In a grid-down scenario, your food supply might become a target. Concealment isn't about being sneaky, it's about being smart. It might be as simple as using unmarked containers or as complex as having hidden storage spaces. Finally, operational security. This isn't a military operation, but the principle still stands. Be mindful of who knows about your food storage. Loose lips can indeed sink ships. The less people know about your preparations, the safer your supplies are. Your food storage is your lifeline in a long-term grid-down scenario, so keep it safe and secure. And that, my friends, is how you build a food storage system for a grid-down scenario. We've journeyed through the basics of food preservation, delved into dry storage practices, explored canning, dehydration, and fermentation, and even dug a little into the old ways of root cellaring. We've looked at alternative methods, considered how to create a diverse food plan, and discussed the importance of proper maintenance and rotation. And let's not forget about securing and protecting our food storage. But remember, knowing isn't enough. Practice is key. Start small, maybe with drying or canning, and gradually build your skills. Before you know it, you'll have a robust food storage system ready for whatever comes. But don't stop there. Keep learning. Keep improving. It's a journey, but one worth taking. Because when it comes to food storage, it's a matter of survival. Remember, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. Start building your food storage today. Now it's your turn to take action. Start with one preservation method that you've learned today. Whether it's canning, dehydration, or even root cellaring, the important thing is to begin. If you're hungry for more knowledge, there's a wealth of resources available out there. Books, websites, even local classes can provide the in-depth learning you might be seeking. Got questions? Have some wisdom to share? Drop a comment below. We're all in this journey together. Thanks for watching. Stay prepared and stay safe. Until next time.